Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And the topic of this 10-minute moan is an incredible decision by Israel to stop recognising the UNRWA, or UNRWA, as most people call it. This follows months of issues with UNRWA. The thing that first came to the world's attention was the involvement with some of their staff who were subsequently sacked by the UN for their involvement in the 7th of October massacres. And then as the world learned about that and started looking into more historic things, there seems to have been this concern with UNRWA's involvement with Hamas for quite some time. So what's happened today? I'll read out this story from the Times of Israel, then I'll give you some additional information I want to share with you once I'm finished. So their headline is, Israel informs the UN that the 1967 agreement recognising UNRWA is void. Foreign Minister Katz dismisses the idea that no other agency can do UNRWA work and says it handles only 13% of Gaza's aid. Israel's UN envoy says Israel won't cooperate with groups that promote terror. Seems quite fair. The Foreign Ministry on Monday officially informed the United Nations that Israel is withdrawing from its 1967 agreement recognising the Palestinian refugee agency UNRWA after they passed legislation to severely limit the operations of the agency in Israel and in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Foreign Minister Director General Jacob Blitshtein sent the letter to the UN General Assembly President Philemon of Cameroon, informing him that Israel will continue to work with international partners, including other United Nations agencies, to ensure the facilitation of humanitarian aid to civilians in Gaza in a way that does not undermine Israel's security. Israel expects the United Nations to contribute to and cooperate in this effort. Last week, the government passed a bill banning UNRWA from operating within Israeli territory and prohibiting Israeli government agencies from working with UNRWA. The bill takes effect in 3 months. UNRWA, the organisation whose employees participated in the October 7th massacre, and many of whose employees are Hamas operatives, is part of the problem in Gaza Strip and not part of the solution, Foreign Minister Israel Katz said. The UN was presented with endless evidence about Hamas operatives working at UNRWA and about the use of UNRWA facilities for terror purposes, and nothing was done about it. Katz noted that only 13% of the aid to Gaza currently goes through UNRWA and argued that the idea that there is no alternative is fictional. Ambassador to the UN Danny Danon welcomed Monday's move, slamming the UN for not taking action after Israel's evidence of Hamas infiltration of the refugee agency. The State of Israel will continue to cooperate with humanitarian organisations, but not with organisations that promote terrorism against us, he wrote on X. The legislation has alarmed the United Nations and some of Israel's Western allies who fear it will further worsen the already dire humanitarian situation in Gaza, where Israel has been fighting Hamas terrorists since carried out the October 7th massacre. While Israel has worked to gradually limit UNRWA's role in the delivery of humanitarian aid in favour of the World Food Programme, UNICEF and other agencies, UNRWA is still heavily involved in the Strip's humanitarian operation, running shelters, clinics and warehouses. And despite pledges by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Foreign Ministry to make sure that the flow of aid remains uninterrupted, representatives of the International Organisation for Migration and UNICEF have both stated that they would be unable to fill the gap behind when UNRWA has cut back or halt operations in Gaza. Israel has long had a combative relationship with UNRWA, which it argues has perpetrated the Palestine refugee crisis by allowing the status to be passed down through generations. Frustrations with UNRWA in Jerusalem has picked up over the past decade as Israel has found the Gaza ruling Hamas terror group embedded with the agency's infrastructure. That anger has peaked since October 7th, in which a number of UNRWA staffers were found to have participated, including kidnapping and killing Israelis. Israel has alleged that 10% of UN agency staff have ties to Hamas, a charge the agency has denied. So quite serious. And it backs up this bizarre thing I'm about to tell you, right? There's a current case in America, in New Jersey, where it's $1 billion civil claim by some of the families of those who were murdered and taken captive on October the 7th against UNRWA for £1 billion of damages because their staff helped. Now, when the sackings were made by UNRWA, when they found out some of their staff had been involved in October 7, they automatically sacked them. There was no suspension awaiting trial, sacked them. And the United Nations said at the time, although they have a charter that their staff have got to get out a jail card and can remain immune from criminal charges and civil charges across the world, they stated that anyone involved in the invasion on the 7th of October would have no such get out of jail card. They would not give them an appeal for immunity. Because although United Nations staff do have and can have immunity the world over, the UN can at any time remove that immunity. And they clearly stated, when there was staff found to be perpetrators on the 7th of October, they clearly stated in a statement that any staff involved would not remain under their security blanket of immunity. So then we fast forward to recently when the case started in New Jersey, which I believe started about a month ago, maybe slightly less. And guess what? The UN turned up at the court and said that their staff remained immune and they would not be seeking to remove that immunity from their staff. The current leaders in America, the Attorney General backed that up, didn't challenge it, which is bizarre. And what is even more bizarre, try and find anything about this case in any Western outlets, you'll struggle. Actually struggle to hear about $1 billion case against UNRWA in New Jersey. And something else that became apparent because of this case, and this was something I'd heard of previously but was unsure on the legalities of it or not. But they did admit that the UNRWA staff in Gaza are paid in US dollars. Now that is not electronically paid into their bank in a denomination of America. That is hard cash. And 18,000 or so staff in Gaza are all paid when money is wired from a bank in America into the area. A truck picks up the money and drives into Gaza. These people are then given useless bills in dollars which they can't use. They then transfer the dollars into the local currency. Guess who changes it for them? Hamas. And Hamas take between 15 and 25% of a fee. Now, I'm not suggesting for a minute that it's laundering money and the staff are paid a bit more so Hamas can take some money off and the staff are left with the same. But I'm suggesting it's bloody strange that every staff member of UNRWA in Gaza is paid in cash, in dollars, and change the money with Hamas, who take a skin off the top. It's tens of millions of pounds, tens of millions of dollars even. And that came up in the court case in New Jersey that nobody is talking about. So we've got court verified evidence of this, basically how to wash money into Hamas through UNRWA. We've got evidence of the United Nations going back in their word of removing the get out of jail cards for their staff if any of them were taken to court. And one other thing that was even more intriguing, one of the Secretary Generals of the United Nations, when asked about this court case in New Jersey, was totally unaware of it. So it seems that UNRWA were trying to defend this case and plead immunity for their own and keep it on the QT. It's all rather strange, isn't it? But there we go. And no doubt, those who think all things bad about Israel will be telling us how terrible this is and how the world needs UNRWA. People like Hamza Yousaf, they'll be quick to tell us that this is horrific and terrible, not very good. This is, in fact, genocide. That'll be a word that'll come up in the next few days as the news of this filters through to people who should know better. So there we go. I really hope that UNICEF and these other agencies can be allowed to give the much needed aid into that area without fueling further issues with terrorists. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please hit the subscribe and notifications bell. Put your comments below, let us know how you think on that. But most importantly of all, as long as you're not someone who tries to ignore links with terrorists in the name of charity, not you, but
everyone else, have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.